All right, so today we're going to dive into a problem that affects millions of people, chronic dizziness. But more importantly, we're going to explore a really revolutionary new way of thinking about it. We're talking about an approach that goes way beyond just, coping with the symptoms, and it actually gets in there and re-engineers the very system that causes them in the first place. So let's get into it. It all starts with this one simple sentence. Now, I know it might not sound like some groundbreaking medical statement, but believe me, understanding this laundry problem is the absolute first step to unlocking a whole new approach to therapy for dizziness. So let's meet the person at the heart of this whole thing. This is Mrs. Smith, and for her, every single time she reaches down into the laundry basket and then looks up to put the clothes away, the world just spins. It's this predictable, frustrating, and honestly debilitating cycle. And you know what? She is definitely not alone. Her experience brings us right into our first section, the laundry problem itself. We're going to look at what it is and the traditional way we've always tried to solve it. For decades, the standard approach was, well, pretty straightforward. If doing laundry makes you dizzy, then you should practice doing laundry. This method's called habituation. The idea is basically that if you trigger the dizziness enough times, your brain will eventually just get tired of it and stop reacting. I mean, it seems like common sense, right? But is it actually the best approach? Well, research shows this just push-through-it method hits a lot of roadblocks. I mean, think about it. Patients really struggle with low motivation, because who wants to feel sick on purpose? Then you've got time management issues, not enough guidance. It's kind of like asking someone to just repeatedly walk into a wall, hoping that eventually the wall gets softer. It just doesn't work that way. And all of this leads us to the real core idea of this explainer today. What if the reason that old method fails so often is because we've been busy fixing the wrong thing entirely? This is the absolute game changer right here. The laundry, it's just a trigger. The room she's in, that's just a stage. The real problem is internal. It's the faulty, kind of broken scripts that her brain is running. So you see, the dizziness isn't really an error. It's actually the natural, expected outcome of a system that's following bad instructions. And this chart really lays it out perfectly. The old way focuses on the task, teaching you to tolerate the symptoms, which can actually just reinforce the bad habits your brain has learned. But the new way, strategy reengineering, it focuses on the whole system. It's not about tolerance at all. It's about fixing the faulty signal and building brand new, correct strategies. And this analogy just brilliantly illustrates the difference. Focusing on the laundry task is like trying to fix a faulty car engine by just flooring the accelerator. It completely misses the point. What we actually need to do is pop the hood and recalibrate the gear ratios, the fundamental mechanics that are causing the problem in the first place. Okay, so let's pop that hood. What exactly is this faulty script that's running inside the brain? To get that, we need to first take a quick look at how a healthy balance system is supposed to work. So a healthy brain uses something called dynamic sensory weighting. Just think about walking through a super chaotic, crowded street. Your brain is brilliant. It instinctively knows your visual field is totally unreliable, so it automatically turns down the volume on your vision and relies more on the signals from your inner ears and, say, your feet on the ground. It's constantly shifting its focus to whatever information is the most trustworthy in that exact moment. Dizziness happens when this whole system just breaks down. We call it a sensory mismatch. See, for patients like Mrs. Smith, the brain has lost its flexibility. It's gotten stuck, and it's over-relying on just one source of information, which is usually vision. And this creates a huge conflict when the different senses start reporting different things. So here is exactly what happens to Mrs. Smith. 1, she looks down, creating that rush of visual motion we call optic flow. 2, her brain's broken script incorrectly trusts this visual data above everything else. 3, her brain panics. It interprets this visual rush as her entire body falling through space. 4, her inner ear, which is working perfectly, sends the correct signal. Nope, we're totally stable. And 5, that massive, massive conflict between what the eyes are screaming and what the ears are reporting, that is what we feel as dizziness. Okay, so if the problem is a faulty script, how in the world do we rewrite it? Well, this brings us to the solution, a process called strategy re-engineering. The goal here represents a total paradigm shift. We're not trying to teach the patient to just grit their teeth and tolerate feeling dizzy. No, we're acting more like software engineers for the brain. We're finding the bug in the code and debugging the neural system directly. Now, this takes a really highly skilled clinician. They don't just hand out generic exercises. They perform this deep analysis to figure out exactly which sensory input is failing. And then they use these precise, controlled movements to literally recalibrate the entire system. The process is super methodical. First, you identify the bad strategy. Next, you challenge the brain with very specific exercises that are designed to highlight that error. This actually forces the brain to pivot away from that unreliable visual information it's clinging to. And finally, you build and reinforce a new, correct hierarchy, where the brain starts trusting the right signals again. And the result is, well, it's pretty elegant. We haven't changed the laundry. We haven't changed the room. We've changed the brain. We've basically given it an accurate map of reality. And once that internal map is correct, the external environment, the laundry, it just stops being a problem. The conflict is resolved right at the source. And that brings us to the most important part of this whole story, the human payoff. What does all this actually mean for people like Mrs. Smith? After going through this re-engineering process, Mrs. Smith finished her laundry one day, and she just had this realization. The dizziness, it was just gone. She said, it was the first time I didn't feel like I had to brace myself or sit down afterward. And that's the moment, you know? That's when the abstract science becomes this incredible, life-changing reality. This is what it is all about. It's about regaining your confidence, your independence, and getting back a part of your life that you really thought was lost forever. It's the freedom from a problem that once felt like a life sentence. So I'll leave you with this question, and it really applies to so much more than just dizziness. In any problem we face, are we just learning to tolerate the noise, the symptoms and the triggers, or are we willing to dig deeper to find and actually fix the underlying signal? Because once that signal is clear, you'll find the noise often just takes care of itself.